Shadow and bone, good versus evil, light versus dark, come together in this book. And do I have the perfect pairing for it? Let's drink about it. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the Tipsy Trope. I am B-Man, and today we're making a light and dark cocktail and talking about Leigh Bardugo's Shadow and Bone. This is the first book I've read from Leigh Bardugo, and I was pleasantly surprised. I had zero expectations going in. I didn't know anything about the series or the show on Netflix except that it was fantasy. I thought it was fairly well written, and I think this is one of her first works, so kudos to her. She's probably improved since then. I'm looking forward to reading more of her work, including the sequel to Shadow and Bone. This book is all about dark versus light, literally and figuratively. So I wanted to create a cocktail that kind of showed that separation of light and darkness. So we'll concoct that as we discuss the book. I gotta say, by far the most interesting thing about this book is the setting. This fantasy world takes place in a setting similar to Russia, Imperial Russia to be more specific, a world that is on the verge of industrial revolution, discovering gunpowder and the like. By the way, the drink is called the Dark and Stormy, and all I've done so far is to put ice in a highball glass. So in this world, there's a country called Ravka, and they are kind of shunning the new technology that's coming out because they have something that they think is better: magic. They have an elite group of magic users called the Grisha, who train and practice in like a school type setting to kind of build up their powers. So what's interesting about the country of Ravka, besides the fact that they have this prowess when it comes to magic, is that running north and south along the country is this area called the Shadow Fold. As the name suggests, it's an area that is devoid of light. But the people of Ravka are forced to try to go through it. And because Ravka is landlocked from the north and south by other countries, in order for the people to go from one side of the country to the other and to get to the water, they have to traverse through this shadow fold. But it's a dangerous area. As you make your way from the light into the shadow fold slowly, light begins to diminish and darkness takes over. And within there are creatures that... So yeah, a little bit ominous, but it makes the country very, very interesting, and it is the premise or the concept that most of this narrative is based around. Now, we're just gonna cut up some lime here for our drink. We're gonna juice about half a lime right into the glass. I'm gonna keep this other half around because we're gonna garnish with it later. Now, the main character in this book is a girl named Alina. She's a teenager, I think 15 or 16 years, and she's an orphan, or was an orphan before we catch up with her. And she grew up and didn't have a stable home, but she had her friend Mao that was always with her, and they kind of relied upon each other as they were growing up. And in one of her work assignments, as she's traversing the land and taking it all in and creating her map, she and the people who she's traveling with happen to wander into the shadow fold, and everything goes dark. And without going into any major spoilers, she realizes that she has this magical potential, one that has not been seen for thousands of years. Yes, it's the chosen one trope, but if you're a fantasy reader at all, then you're pretty much numb to it by now. It's prevalent in so many fantasy books. Yeah. So Alina basically goes from being a nobody to one of the most important people in all of Ravka, and she's rushed away to this school where she can hone her magical abilities and build upon them and become more and more powerful for a specific reason, again, which I won't spoil. You can read about it. And it was at this point in the book where Alina goes to school that I was a little bit worried that we're going to end up with like a Harry Potter wizarding school type scenario that I had to read. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It was great for Harry Potter and I enjoyed those books. Luckily though, it wasn't like that. There was a little bit of school and classes and teaching, but there was a lot of other stuff going on. Some intrigue, some politics, and some other things that were a little bit more adult oriented, which I was kind of surprised about because this is a YA book. A book geared towards young adults, but I think it has enough adult themes in there to make it palatable to a larger audience. And I certainly enjoyed it. Now, to complete the light part of the drink, ginger beer. And ginger beer isn't beer at all, it's like root beer. It doesn't have any alcohol in it. but it has a strong ginger flavor. And it's heavier than the rum that we're gonna put on it, so it's gonna sink to the bottom. We're gonna add about 5 ounces of this in there. Ginger beer is so good. It has that kind of bite that fresh ginger brings. I love that. So we're gonna add the dark part here in just a minute. But first I wanna address something. I was watching other reviews about this book, and there was a lot of complaining about the main character, Alina, and how her decisions were not the greatest, or that she was naive. You have to keep in mind that she's a young person. She's a teenager. She's not a well-adjusted adult yet. And if you think back to when you were a teenager, maybe you had some insecurities, maybe you thought that you weren't good looking enough, maybe you thought that you weren't smart enough or not interesting enough, or maybe that your self-worth was tied to how other people perceived you. These are some of the things that kind of go through the mind of Alina as she's thinking about the people she's encountering and having interactions with them. So just keep that in mind as you're reading it, that she's a teenager, she's inexperienced, she's insecure, and I think it'll make her character a lot more believable. Let's add the darkness. So to give us that nice dark light separation, I went and got the darkest rum I could find in the store. This is Captain Morgan's Black Spiced Rum. So we're gonna go in with about 2 ounces of the dark rum, and we're gonna pour it over the back of a bar spoon so it kind of drizzles in and doesn't mix with the white that's underneath it. And now we just garnish it with some lime, and we have our drink. Look at that. Now I can't take full credit for this drink, as it was recommended to me by a Facebook acquaintance that I have who was also reading the book, but I think she hit it spot on. I mean, look at this. Dark, light, dark, light. It's perfect. Now you're gonna wanna mix this a little bit before you drink it, because all the rum is sitting on top, or you can drink it through a straw. I'm just gonna mix it. Now we lose that separation, but the drink is nice and blended now. And delicious. Now you gotta love ginger in order to enjoy this, because that ginger beer really has a kick, and the spiced rum just goes perfectly with it. Wow. I don't know what spices they're using, but it works really well in this cocktail. So definitely recommend this Captain Morgan Black Spiced Rum. And I definitely recommend you go check out this book. I had a good time reading it, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.